We are going to start with a problem that I have in my vault. I actually have a list of probably 1,000 questions in my vault. And so I'm pulling one out. And this one reads, you are making 300 milliliters of dextrose 12% from dextrose 70%. And it says, to the nearest whole number, how many milliliters of the 70% along with sterile water for injection do you need in order to complete this task? So, a couple of things off the bat. This is categorized as a dilution type problem. All right. So we are making a fixed amount of D12 from a higher strength, which is D70. Now, off the top of my head, there's two ways to do this problem. There's two ways to accomplish it. The first way is, and let me erase my board. The first way would be quantity times strength. So the quantity of the first solution times the strength of the first solution equals the quantity of the second solution times the strength of the second solution. So we just have to be consistent throughout our calculation. What we determine is solution one and solution two. So I'm going to say that solution one is going to be 300 milliliters of D12. So I'm going to say quantity is 300 milliliters. The strength is 12% equals an unknown quantity of D70. So I'm going to say 70%, which is my strength, times Q. I like to use Q for quantity and S for strength because that way, if I leave the calculation for a minute, I can come back and pick up where I left off. All right. So I divide both sides of my equation by 70%. It cancels off over here, divide by 70%. I can get rid of my percent signs. So I have one in the numerator and one in the denominator, okay? So I say 300 times 12 divided by 70. Now I can get rid of a zero as well if I do that in my denominator and my numerator. So 30 times 12 is 360 divided by 7. 360 divided by 7. 60 divided by 7 is 51.44285. So let's say 51.4, right? Okay. So it's saying to the nearest whole number. So since it's 51.42857, let's write most of the number down, okay? We're going to round down because this number here is less than 5. So this becomes 51 milliliters of 70%, okay? But I also have to know how much of the 12%, I'm sorry, excuse me, not the 12%. We know the 12% is 300 milliliters, right? But now I have to know how much is for the still water, okay? So I take 300 and I subtract 51. I get 249. 249 milliliters of still water. Okay? So these two things are my answer. These two amounts are my answer together. Okay? Now, there is another way to do this problem. I am going to show you the other way. The other way is by alligation. Okay? So let me just erase this. So I start with what is my highest strength? My highest strength is 70%. 70% is my highest strength. My lowest strength is 0% because this represents my sterile water. And the strength that I'm going to end up with, the strength I'm going to find, the strength I'm going to make is 12%. So I do my subtraction. Over here, it's parts, okay, which is solubility. So it's 12 parts here and it's 58 parts here. Now, I'm going to total them because in my problem, it says what the final amount is going to be, and that's 300 milliliters. So if it's totaled there in my problem, I have to total my parts, and that's 70 total parts. Okay? Now, I'm reading through the question again. You're making 300 milliliters of D12 from D70. To the nearest whole number, how many milliliters of the 70% and sterile water for injection do you need in order to complete this task? Okay? So, the way that the question is structured, I can use either one of these. If I use this one, I'm going to get my 70% first. If I use this one, I'm going to get my sterile water first, okay? But I'm locked into using 70 parts as my denominator. So let's do this. Let's say 12 parts over 70 parts equals an unknown over 300 milliliters. Parts, milliliters. Okay? Another way to look at it is part over the whole equals part over the whole. Okay? So 12 times 300 is 3,600 equals 70 times x. I divide both sides of my equation by 70. Okay, I don't have a lot of space here. So I'm going to squeeze it in if I can. Over here, the 70s cancel. Over here, I'm left 3,600 divided by 70. And those are the same numbers that we got for quantity times strength. So everything after this point is the same. All right. Everything after that part is the same. All right. So I'm going to get 51 milliliters of 70% plus 249 milliliters of sterile water. And that is And that is what it is. That's the answer. Okay. So these two together are the answer. If I use 12 parts, I'll get my 70% first. If I use 58 parts, I'm going to get my still water first. Okay. And that's how you do that problem 2 ways. Thanks for watching.